Hello and welcome to the show. If you thought political correctness had gone, think again. Years ago, it seemed to encapsulate everything in public life, and the mainstream media was all about politically correctness. What you had to say, what you couldn't say. But it's still around, particularly in academic institutions, and is being used by bureaucrats and by professors to do the opposite of what they should be doing, in my view. What they should be doing is encouraging debate and new thinking and having people realize there are other alternatives out there and to find out the best ones. Instead, we have universities across Canada closing down the mines, saying, you can't discuss that. Lisa Bildy is a lawyer. She is a member of the Law Society, a bencher of the Law Society, and she joins me right now because you are being a pain in the neck to a few institutions. You are acting for people who they tried to shut down. No one knows this better than you. So tell me, particularly one case which has gotten a lot of publicity recently.
Sure. And I think a lot of my cases have been getting publicity because people like to hear these stories about just how crazy things are. But I think the one you're talking about is Margaret Munn versus the University of Western Ontario, my beloved alma mater, who has, in my view, gone astray. So Ms. Munn was a mature student who had taught for 30 years and went back to her alma mater, which was Western, to get an education degree. She'd been teaching abroad. She wanted to get the credentials she needed here when she came back in order to teach in the classroom again. And so she went back to Teachers College 30 years after her first degree.
First of all, that's bold right there. But when she got back to college, she started to question a few things.
Well, sure she did, because the culture had totally changed in that period of time. And now what was being taught was, in fact, very ideological and dogmatic. So in her first week of class, now I should set the stage a little more. This is a Scottish woman with a very thick brogue, delightful lady, and no nonsense. So when the Indigenous pedagogy instructor started talking about decolonizing the curriculum, she had a few questions. And she asked, how do you expect decolonization to work on a math test or in a chemistry lab or in a classroom? Like, what does it actually mean? And she didn't get a very satisfactory answer. In fact, what she got was the professor being quite annoyed with her and taking her aside after class.
How dare you question me?
Yes. Well, I mean, Jonathan Kay wrote about this story, a journalist with Quillette, and he said, you can't question the oracle. And I thought that was a very apt way to put it. But she did question it, and she asked questions in other classes too, and was probably a pain in the butt to some degree because she didn't just accept what she was being told, and she wasn't afraid to push back a little bit. And all of this resulted in an emergency meeting of the DEI committee, which decided that she was causing an unsafe environment, and she had to go.
And it was sort of like the old Star Chamber. You know, we are going to decide for you. Don't you say anything. You stand there and take what we're handing out. But I mean, it's so interesting that she's in a university and they are saying, don't question this. You can't talk about it. So then the university is doing what right now? Or you're suing the university.
We're suing, but there's a little bit more to the story. So not only did she rub them the wrong way and they wanted to get her out, but they put a lot of pressure, this committee put a lot of pressure, from the sounds of it, on the associate dean, who then investigated. There were a number of alleged sort of accusations from unnamed people. It was sort of secondary hearsay. It was just this sort of a sham of an investigation. And she was ultimately, Ms. Munn was put on conditional status for the rest of the year. Now, she fought back and she filed an appeal to the University Senate. And to her great credit, and to the university's, some members of the university's credit, the Senate panelist was a science professor. And she, this was at the end of the school year, found in favor of Margaret and said that the conditions had to be waived, had to stop immediately.
But that wasn't the end of it, though, was it?
No.
No, okay. We're going to take a quick break. Okay. And when we come back, we're going to talk about how this case is progressing, how it has, in my view, I read the details, sullied the reputation of what once was a good university, but also we'll talk about the fact that this is not a sole case.
Nope.
Lots of this stuff is going by the wayside. Right back after this break.